You are watching Excess LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is July 31st, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Tax Abatement Committee. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Meeting of the Michigan City Tax Abatement Committee. It's 4:07 p.m. July 31st. First, we'll start off with the roll call. Councilman Dabney.
Present.
Councilman Mack. And Councilman Fitzpatrick. Two present, one absent. We have a quorum. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to review the current tax abatement. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Holst.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. This is something we do annually. By law, every company that has an abatement with the city, we have to do compliance with them every year to make sure that they have done what they promised to the city council. And so as part of that, we send out 2 notices every year. I think one in February and one in March, and there should be a copy of the letter we send out to them, just so they are aware that they have this obligation to the city. And when they send us back their reports, if it's below or hasn't met the threshold of what they promised, we ask them to explain why. And so typically we have those responses for you if you want to know why a company didn't meet their obligation. So what you have in this form is all the outstanding abatements, and they have to file what they call a CF1. In the letter, we ask them to file with either the city clerk or the county auditor. And then we collect that data from the city clerk's office or the county auditor. We make sure we get everybody's information, we go through it, and we print together a report. So all those copies are in this file, of which the city clerk has she may have some of the originals and some copies. There's also a file in her office. There's also a file at the top, so the county auditor's office. So, and we usually maintain copies of the originals. We don't have the originals. On the list, as you can see, there's more or less. I guess there's 14 companies with 23 abatements. Some companies have gotten multiple abatements over the years. For those of you who were in council prior to, I guess, 2015-16, Pepperbox used to come almost every year for an abatement. So they got like 3 or 4 outstanding. And then some company, like the new company, Academics, when they moved in, they got 2 abatements, one for personal, one for real estate, because you can get 2 at the same time. So that's why there's more abatements than companies, to explain that. What you will see that
just real quick, so just for people that may not understand what you mean by personal and real estate, can you kind of break just those 2 things down real quick?
Real property is paying real estate taxes, so you can only achieve that if you either build a building or buy a building with substantial improvements over $1 million. And so they bought an empty warehouse and an empty office building, 25,000 square feet, and they put in over $9 million in both. So they're able to get a bid for real estate. They also got one for equipment. They are a biotech company, and the average wage is $60,000 a year, and they're still looking for people. They can't find people, but they're
personal property would just consist of like equipment.
Equipment,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to
Which is,
put that out.
Could be computers, could be machining equipment, could be instead of Indiana, anything that is used in manufacturing. It's considered equipment. So, and those are some of the hard costs that business has to purchase to ramp up to move forward. So the abatement we do. And Business City is kind of unusual, but it's different. A few years ago, Councilman Don Priper asked me to consider doing it a little differently. So by state law, we can do 10 years for both real estate and personal. What we did was we pushed the real estate to 7 years, and the personal to 5 years. The reason being, we were able to change the formulas or the percentages so they get what they would have gotten in 10 years and 7 years, and what they would have gotten in 10 years and 5 years. And so why do you do that? Number one, instead of waiting 10 years for it to be back on a tax roll, they get the money they need up front for startup purposes, but also the money gets back on the tax roll much faster. That makes sense. So that way, instead of waiting 10 years for equipment, it's only 5 years now. So you'll see a lot, if you look on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth column, you'll see some of the old 10-year abatements up top, but if you look on the bottom, they're all 5 and 7s. So those will fall off a lot faster. So in about 3 or 4 years, you'll be having very little abatements because they'll all be back paying taxes, full taxes. And that was the whole idea, was to get them back on the tax rolls faster. So if you see they get 100%, 95 in the first 3 or 4 years, because we're trying to give them the money they need at startup, but then that goes away very quickly, and then they start paying more taxes faster, and that more money to the general fund. So that was the rationale behind that.
Quick question on that. Has because I'm sure other cities around the state, just about everywhere, doing these same things. Is everybody moving to the shorter abatements, like the 5 years in that?
Well, when they changed the state law 6 years ago, you can do 100% for 5 years. I mean, there's a whole, so a lot of those things we do are negotiable.
Right. Okay.
But people are going, they do, a lot of them are doing shorter term, but give it the same amount of money they got in 10 years. Okay, it just makes sense. The business needs the cash flow up front, and then the city gets it to be a tax roll much faster.
Perfect.
So I think it works in everybody's favor that way. Of the 14 companies, 11 have complied with their projected job creation and investment, and 3 are very close to their hiring goals. And of course, we required up and why didn't they meet those goals, and they'll tell you, pretty much COVID was a disruption, so some people lost contracts, so they couldn't hire people because they didn't have contracts, and then those who were still operating could not find people, and that's been an ongoing issue we have right now with jobs in Michigan State, well, not in Michigan City, across the country. We can't find people to work. But that's a national issue. That's not only a Michigan City issue. That's a national issue. We just can't find enough people. Case in point, we had a job fair 3 months ago. We had 80 companies, roughly 2,000 jobs on the floor, and 200 people showed up. So there's jobs. We just can't find the people. Now we're working with Work One to look at how do we do upskilling and make sure people who have jobs, they want to upskill. So going from 15 to 19, 20 bucks an hour, because if people are working, let's figure out how to make sure they can upgrade their skills and upgrade their skills and get better paying jobs, because now's the time for us to do that. I'm talking any questions from you guys. Part of the process is, some of the reasons for not complying is lack of qualified employees, the war in Ukraine, disruption in the supply chain, of course, COVID recovery. But just not having employees is a big issue right now. It's a national issue. The process, we come to you and you look at the companies, and if there's any questions, concern, we can discuss those here. And if not, then under committee reports, the chairman would bring it up, and the council, as the council, just certify the abatement, and then after the meeting, the chairman would sign the CF1s, and then they're sent to the auditor's office.
So you said out of 14, 11 have met their goals.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going over the other 3 and what they've come up short on and why? Can we do that?
Well, the 3, yeah, and the 3 are they're listed here. The 3, I think it was I'm trying to get the 3 Aquagenics. And they came in, that's a relocation, so they started from 0. And so they're supposed to be hiring, I believe, 100 jobs. So they're at 70 right now.
Okay.
From 0.
Yeah. But they have very high skill jobs. You gotta have a degree in biology and chemistry and that kind of stuff. So it's not They're in a very different market than
Gotcha.
typical manufacturing. They have over like probably 500 patents in the medical field.
So are they able to pull from the local market, or are they
They're
bringing
pulling
land
from all over. They're pulling from Michigan, South Bend, Crown Point, and even people who are in college from Michigan City and IU, whatever. Yeah, you have a degree in one of those sciences, they'll bring you on board.
Okay.
Because they just can't find people. So they've even, yeah, I mean, so when they relocated, they brought with them 15 people. So I say 15 is what they brought with them, but the rest is all local regional hires. What else? Hartside, they're at 88%. They currently have 379 jobs, so they're trying to get to 400. So they're trying to make effort to comply. It's just they can't find the bodies. So, and then what's the last one here?
I'm sure that doesn't account for turnover.
No.
I believe it's Mulhern.
Mulhern?
I believe it's Mulhern.
Yeah, they've always had problems at Mulhern. They do this the belts that go in those rollers, whatever. So that's a tough job to be in. It's not a very cool environment. So and then but you look at Solaire, they're at 114%. 583 jobs, so they exceed. Midwest Metal, they are 154%. So they've exceeded. So certain companies have exceeded, some have not. D Martin, they're 129%. With the hired 10, they hired 18. So some people have been able to exceed their numbers, and some people are a little bit low. So, and then of course they've all made their investment, the real estate investment and equipment. Those are usually the first things they do. So those are done. So typically we look at the jobs because they make the investments. That they have to do it to be able to function. So they're not far off. They're just, and I mean they were part of the job fair, so they were the recruiting. It's not like they're not doing what they need the people. Badly.
And with the aquagenics, how long ago did they get started?
2020.
2020.
So
Yeah, but they bought an existing building and it's been a year of renovations. So they're really just starting out.
a couple years, really.
Yeah.
And I did a reverse math in my head. Getting old, man.
And then got 2 abatements, one for 5 years, one for 7 years. So actually 3, because they were the first ones that ever got what they call a vacant building abatement from the state. That when they moved the taxes back to when the building was empty.
Okay.
So there's a little loophole in the state, or loophole, a benefit in the state law. If you take an empty building and put it back on the tax rolls, you're allowed to move the taxes back to where it was and start over from there. So you get a bigger.
From when it was first vacated?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there'll probably be another one coming up soon. You don't get those very often, but Federal Mobile just got sold. So they had to come to us for the same thing. It's been there empty for, I guess, 15, 20 years. So
Okay.
they just got bought by a company out of Milwaukee. So they're looking at doing something similar. So, Mr.
I got a question for you, Clarence, if I may. I think it's
KTR?
KTR, and did you say that Gail has the CF one forms or?
Yeah, but there's also a copy here. She has some of the originals. I have the copies. So.
Their status, on their employment status, on achieving whatever they said they were gonna do, they're kind of low. And I know that company's been out there for quite some time.
Yes.
I'd like to see a copy of their, get a copy of all their information, because they were supposed to make investments on machinery, weren't they?
And they did. So the machinery is not the problem. And they've been out there since 2012, so they're almost finished. So some years they meet the requirement, some years they don't because of turnover. So some years they've gotten to their number, and then some years they drop. So our job is to watch them for 10 years to make sure they keep the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to see what they were supposed to invest in,
Okay.
and what they did, because I knew I know a couple people that worked out there and they were having problems with setting up their CNC machines.
Okay, that would be 2012 when they got the abatement, so that's when, but I have a copy, I would here if you need a copy.
So they'd be out of their tax abatement, right?
This is their last year. So a few of those you won't see anymore, and that's one of them.
I mean, I don't, okay.
So, and they made some additional investments after this tax abatement, because I knew they were trying to give away some equipment. They had some tall press machines that they didn't want to use anymore, and they tried to give the AK Smith, but they're too tall to get inside the AK Smith. They're like probably 20 feet high. So they're trying to give it away, but they couldn't. The ceiling height over there is 15 feet, so they couldn't get it, couldn't take it. So, but they made additional investment after this tax abatement. This is almost 10 years old.
Are there any other questions? Was that the report?
Yep. So usually this is what I let council, take the council and ask them to certify their abatements. And
Okay, so if we have any other questions, call for adjournment. It's 4:23.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
awesome.
All right, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank